The biggest thing must be the feeling that you can beat someone. Especially that you outwitted them. You did something and they couldn't figure out why you did it, and then you caught them or something like that.
So was it like a single-minded focus on winning and beating? So also, while we're on the subject, another image kind of came to me. It was this from the film Shatranj Ke Khiladi. I'm sure that two people are playing chess and the world is burning around them and completely says. Does it like also insulate you from the rest of the world?
I came to dislike the game briefly. I would not look at it for maybe 1 or 2 months, and after 1 or 2 months, I would come back, and suddenly everything felt fine. If you look at the era of Fischer, everyone thought all chess players are like Fischer, which is very far from the truth. A lot of chess players then would have been excellent company. And it's quite sad also for Fischer, because he was excellent company. The game of chess is very strict. You can make your position, you make a bad move, you worsen your position. Your probability of success should come down. The thing is, your opponent is quite forgiving also. They're also human.
Yes.
Becoming world champion was a dream. And when you're there, you enjoy a lot of privileges. People want to interact with you and so on. Then there comes a time when it feels a bit much.
There's also this episode in your memoir when you talk about how you very deliberately stayed away from the politics of the chess world. You didn't want to be sucked into their stories.
It was always there, even before computers was there. In fact, the one place where the experience of the game hasn't changed is on the chessboard, because there you're still left alone to your own devices. You can't, you don't get any external help, and you have to do things on your own.
And yet, women remain very underrepresented at the highest level. So, from your long view, where is the real barrier lie there? So is it training environments? Is it confidence? Cultural expectation? What? So, when you would no longer play chess, what would remain with you of chess? Well, chess is one of those rare practices which has escaped its own boundaries. We use it to explain life itself, how to plan, how to wait, how to sacrifice, often without understanding the game itself. So today, I'm going to treat this conversation not as a spectator of the game, but I'll approach it through someone whose life has been shaped by the game. Welcome, Viswanathan Anand, to the Soft Record. Thank you so much for giving time to us.
Thank you.
In the very beginning, I want to ask you that, before the titles, before the rankings, before all the expectations, how did chess feel like when you were just a child? What was that like?
I guess it's a game that I enjoyed. Also, there was something addictive about it. The idea that there was still something I could find out about it. And maybe that would give me an edge in my next game against someone. And so you start to enjoy that feeling of competition, but also the mysteries of the game. I remember when I was 7 or 8, I was very regular. I would go of my own, and nobody had to force me or tell me go and do it or something. I would just go on my own to the chess club to play games for a couple of hours and come back. I would think a lot about chess, and I got hooked pretty fast. So I guess then you could say it's just my passion.
Yeah. So what would appeal to a 7-8-year-old about chess? I'm just trying to imagine.
The biggest thing must be the feeling that you can beat someone. Especially that you outwitted them. You did something and they couldn't figure out why you did it, and then you caught them or something like that. I think it's fun. I think the complexity of the game, you don't understand everything, and somehow it seems that there's still mysteries in it, and you get hooked in a way.
Does it require a certain particular kind of brain to understand it? Because I have tried to understand it forever, but I simply cannot wrap my head around it. I'm a fairly intelligent person. I don't think I have, lack of intelligence to understand, but I just can't seem to get it. So what does it require? A specific sort of thinking, wiring in the brain?
Not at all. We all have tastes. There are lots of professions which I think require similar skills or inclination. But some people choose one, some people choose another, and often you find that there are people who do both and do both quite easily. So there are people who might be chess players and have a couple of other interests. So there's nothing special about that, I think. We all find something, and then I think it's also the experiences you have. You have, I mean, when you're 6 years old and you win a game that, you're hooked, then, and that sort of thing. Or if you're reading, or perhaps you're self-writing and whatever. If you have some success, some validation that hooks you more, and so on.
Yeah. So do you remember that moment when that shift came, when suddenly you were doing it seriously, when it was not exploration anymore, but a serious discipline that you had to inculcate in your life?
I always had the feeling when I was young that this is something I wanted to do rather than something else. But you do get slowly sucked in, I would say. You enjoy results, but then you understand you can get better. You understand you can also get worse if you don't work on it. So something motivates you to try. But by this time, I was also curious to see how far I could get. I knew that if I won a couple of junior or sub-junior events, then I could play in the higher levels. And those would be fun experiences. Something always kind of propels you forward.
So was it like a single-minded focus on winning and beating?
You do want to win. I don't think I particularly went with the confidence that I'm going to win. I went to the confidence that maybe I could win, and there was always a bit of adventure mixed in. This could go other way, but if I hang in there just enough, or if I concentrate a little bit more, maybe I can pull it my direction. That sort of thing.
Well, I was reading your memoir, Mind Master, and and there are all these descriptions of absolute, obsession before the game, or constantly thinking about moves, or and being affected by by whatever is going on. It was almost an obsessive quality to it, right? And that kind of reminded me of this particular book I had read. This is by Vladimir Nabokov. It's called Illusion's Defense. So that is very fascinating to me, that the whole thing was about how he could not escape the logic of chess, in his real life also, outside of chess also, and that kind of led to his breakdown. Did you ever find yourself in that kind of a danger? Or if you did, how did you navigate
Not
it?
at all. In fact, I know quite a few chess players who can, to non-chess players, people who don't compete in the chess circuit, they do seem very absorbed.
Yeah.
But for me, I could easily relate to the fact that I'm sitting opposite the table with someone, and that person is lost in thought. He can't get one position out of his head, and he needs to find the answer to that before he can close that. His brain won't let him do something else. But at the same time, if you suddenly ask him a question, he can pause that part of his brain, switch on another one, answer your question, and then go back. It's not like the behavior you're describing to me seems routine. It seems like part of my circle.
Yes.
And then it's the opposite. I come outside and I realize, oh, okay, not everyone is like that. But when we're in our familiar group, we discuss chess games just like that. We'll throw around notation to each other and think about something. You do need some level of commitment, some level of dedication to pursue anything. But it seems to me all people are self-absorbed in their own areas of expertise. I mean, there's something we do more than other things. There's something we do for a career. We do because we really enjoy. There's something that we can't imagine our life without. And for us, it's chess, that's all. But yes, all of us look strange to everyone else, I think, is the way I would say
it. Because you put it this way and it sounds okay. But like, for example, my colleague Pratiti, she has been, in this ecosystem for a long time, and she was observing that, a lot of these young people, they're pretty much very absorbed by chess, and as if nothing else matters outside of it. And it seems to us slightly out of place. So
I agree that chess players, it's useful for chess players to occasionally get out of that circle and first of all realize how they're seen by others. And think. But I could easily imagine a doctor, you put doctors together in a conference and they'll all discuss the latest ideas, latest techniques, whatever. And you can also, but chess players also have other interests outside. I mean, they may discuss some games they played, some sport they follow, movies they watched. So everyone has a balance. But while I think it's healthy for a chess player to find out how everybody else sees them, and it's maybe kind of realism to understand that. And by the way, not to dismiss the point, there are chess players who have gone over.
Yeah.
Perhaps they didn't cultivate other hobbies and so on. So one of the things I talk about in my book is that you should always have a couple of hobbies. And now, independently of chess, you should have a couple of hobbies. There should be things you do in your life that you're not going to earn money from, but you still want to do it well. I mean, there'll be a lot of things that you can just do, but there's no emotional involvement. But there should be one other thing that you do that you look forward to doing, but you're not necessarily having a career out of it. You should do that because it engages you for a while and you do it. And it's also the best way to handle disappointments. So if things in chess are not going well, and or maybe you have problems in life, whatever, it's nice to have something that takes your mind away. And things that engage your brain fully are the ones that do that best.
So also, while we're on the subject, another image kind of came to me. It was this from the film Shatranj Ke Khiladi. I'm sure that two people are playing chess and the world is burning around them and completely says. Does it like also insulate you from the rest of the world, or you're still, able to engage with the rest of the world?
I mean, first of all, that's a tough image to live up to. We're not quite. But sometimes I think it is nice. I mean, sometimes things are terrible. I mean, I don't know, you missed your flight got cancelled, you don't know what to do, everything's kind of messed up. And I know that if there's another chess player and he suddenly mentions an interesting position, well, we'll worry less about the flight. To give you an example, it's but yes, we do have chess can take us away from other things, take your mind off some other things, and that can be helpful as well. But the problem in reverse is what I mentioned earlier, that if you're not doing well in chess, so you run into some problem. It's routine, it's nothing special. But if you can't change the subject, you take longer to recover, I think. Whereas you can, quite often in my life, when things were not going very well, I hit a wall in terms of performance, something was missing. I came to dislike the game briefly. I would not look at it for maybe 1 or 2 months. And after 1 or 2 months, I would come back and suddenly everything felt fine, because you needed to clear the negative emotions that are associated with certain positions and experiences. And once you do that, you can enjoy it again.
Oh yeah. So you are speaking at a personal level, but have you ever met, say, like a professional chess player who was also, say, involved with the political scenario around him, or very passionately involved with current affairs or the art world or something like that? Because of course there are lots of philosophers, there Bertrand Russell, who used to play chess. There are lots of like people who are doing other things also, but they used to play chess in the and it would be a passion for them. But have you met somebody who was very in sync with what's going around them and would be worried about?
Very much. In fact, that's the majority of the chess players. And I think part of the problem is press maybe likes to highlight the ones who don't fit that. I mean, these people would seem normal to a lot of others. Slightly self-absorbed in chess, but again, I said I think it's the same in every profession. But they know all the current news. They have opinions on politics, on music, on art, and they have interests outside of chess. And they'll seem perfectly normal to you. The problem is it's easier for the public to pick up a newspaper, go to the sports page, and read about that one person who's a bit, it totally doesn't fit that mold. And there's a fascination there. So, I mean, in sports, we tend to look for people who really break the mold. And long back, if you look at the era of Fischer, everyone thought all chess players are like Fischer. Which is very far from the truth. A lot of chess players then would have been excellent company. And it's quite sad also for Fischer, because he was excellent company. He could briefly go into other topics, and he had intelligent views on other things. But he tended to think a lot about chess. So, I mean, again, to make the case that there are lots and lots of chess players, and they're very diverse.
So there was this interesting book, right, which was called Russian Silhouettes, which had these lovely. Have you read it?
No, I haven't read that one.
Okay, so I thought you might. So it had these lovely portraits of Russian grandmasters.
I think I read it.
Yeah,
There's another title.
It was by Sosonko.
Got it. Yeah, no, that book I've read. Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
So do you have any favorite profile from that book? Like one of the profiles that fascinated you the most, or?
There are people I recognize. I mean, I've met Geller, I've met Smyslov, I've met Kochnoi. And when Sosonko writes about them, quite often there's a feeling of recognition. I think, okay, I know that trait. So he would write about how Geller liked to spend his time off the board. And his thing was, he just liked to sit alone, preferably with the window open, have a nice drink in his hand, and then as Sosonko put it, time and space was stopped, and he was just in his drink. And or Kochnoi and many other stories about how, okay, for me they're very recognizable, but I enjoyed it.
Okay, I just want to now come to a little bit of your own mental makeup, and while you're playing chess, so you've often been described as a very intuitive player. To me, it sounds like a vague concept unless there is something specific attached to it. Like, is it like a good idea of pattern recognition, or what exactly is it? Or is it like familiar structures, or just a confidence on your mind that you're going to make the right judgment?
So it's basically all chess players have to. You can't just look at a position and make a move. You will typically have to go a bit deeper. You will check if your first impression was correct. Did you miss something? You'll do your analytical work, and it helps you. It helps you sort of verify your intuition. But I'm one of those people who can stop earlier, who's more comfortable earlier, and I might think, okay, I double checked enough to know that I wasn't I didn't miss anything too obvious, so I'm going to go with my gut feel. Whereas the others will insist on checking a bit more. So I think in this case, intuitive refers to my way of picking a move, choosing a move on the board and executing it.
So I think there was a line in your memoir also, where you said that I had like a childlike, instinct that, as soon as I have a move in my mind, I need to check it whether it's right or not. So I don't want to take too much time in playing it. Is that correct? The way I'm
yes. This is also a sign of nervousness that you can't, you're getting tense thinking about whether to make the move or not. And you want to get it over with. You want to make the move and not have to wrestle with that choice and then pass that choice to your opponent. But the problem is you had a choice once and you've given it up.
Yes.
So now you're committed to the move you made, and your opponent can choose to respond. So that's where, but again, it comes back. I'm comfortable jumping into the unknown, which is why I see myself as more intuitive.
Yeah. So what happens if you make a wrong move? Like, is chess a forgiving game that ways? You can kind of try to undo the damage in the next couple of moves, or it's...
No, chess is, the game of chess is very strict. You can make your position, you make a bad move, you worsen your position. Your probability of success should come down. The thing is, your opponent is quite forgiving also. They're also human.
Yes.
So they'll also make a mistake unless the path is obvious, or they can also go wrong. So you will get more chances.
Yes.
But that's because there's a human on the other side.
Yeah, that's true. We will come to when the machines come in, but also, you were associated early on with speed, rapid formats, quick decisions. So did speed kind of feel like freedom to you, or did it feel like exposure, that there's no time to hide behind calculations?
Well, that's pretending it was really a choice. I think I was impatient. And then, funnily enough, I decided that impatience suited me. Sometimes my first reaction was more accurate than I gave it credit for, so maybe I should let it run once in a while. But it's a little bit of impatience, but also the fact that I grew up playing a lot of fast games, so you tend to make decisions quickly.
Mm. Uh, then, okay, once you became world champion, expectations, I'm sure, didn't just come. I mean, the entire nation had, had put some kind of a meaning to your being there, right? So, what was the difference between your relationship to chess from when you were chasing the title and to, when you had to actually bear it and kind of continue wearing it? So, how did you relate to it, or was there any difference?
I look, becoming world champion was a dream, and
Yes.
when you're there, you enjoy a lot of privileges. People want to interact with you and so on. Then there comes a time when it feels a bit much. I mean, my dream would have been to be able to take everything that happened to me in the years I was world champion and spread it out more. Thing. But but this is what I experienced, and in fact, my wife told me we don't get to choose. Either we'll get too much at once, or we'll get too little once, and that's simply how life is. And so now you have to put in the extra effort, or in a sense, because we were doing all these things together. So my wife would say, even if it puts us out a little bit, we should take all these experiences, because later on we will not have them again. And that was kind of my attitude. Sometimes it feels a bit much, but it's impossible to expect the world to set the dial to exactly the level you want.
How has it been for your wife? She's been with you throughout. So have your dreams merged, your ambitions merged? And how has she coped with it, or not coped, or how has she enjoyed? How has this journey been for her with you?
I think we experienced everything as a team, and after a while, though she didn't see the chess side of it too much, still she saw through me and through my trainers and all. She could read our faces and know whether the game was going well or not, or things were going according to plan. I think she experienced it very intensely. It was a goal for both of us, and really the way we split how we deal with matters and so on. She took over a lot of dealing with organizers, dealing with the outside world, dealing with the press and all. She took a lot of that on so that I could concentrate more and more on chess. This was and we learned. I mean, we learned to trust each other, and that was very helpful as well. You do need to confide in someone, and yeah, I mean, they were glorious years. They were very hectic, not easy at all. But like I said, we came around to the idea that we should do this, because one day when I'm not world champion anymore or whatever, then there's no use saying, well, now I want this and now I want that. The time for that was then. Then you have to enjoy it.
Yeah, there's also this, episode in your memoir when you talk about, how you very deliberately stayed away from the politics of the chess world, and you didn't want to be sucked into their stories. So was that kind of restraint a very strategic choice, or was it the only way you could remain functional within that ecosystem?
A bit of both. First of all, it's just like chess. You can make a move because it looks pretty, but it has consequences for the rest of the game. And getting into chess politics, or any politics, you can't see it as a 1 or 2 day thing. It's a long-term decision. You can't get in and out. Once you've taken sides, put a position and so on. And it was also a realistic appraisal of the situation. I felt that certain factions, certain countries had more influence in the World Chess Federation. That's simply how it was. And I felt, or rather, one point I realized, if I keep playing well, nobody can ignore me. I'll still find. So whether it's unfair or not, you can keep arguing, but it's more effective just to play well. And if I don't play well, it doesn't matter if I have influence, because if you don't play well, you're not going to be finally being. So I'm talking of being invited to the qualification cycle or the best tournament or whatever. It just seemed very practical like that. Once you think about it like that, that the only thing I depend on is my results, then why waste time in this thing? And yes, so it was a mixture of not being able to commit that much time and energy to something else, but also focusing on my game.
So is it still as hierarchical, or I mean, is it at least better for India now in the world of chess since you became?
It wasn't a question of India as such, and these things are constantly changing. But some players, definitely at that time, the older generation of Soviet players had a lot of influence.
Yeah.
And I think at some point the chess world just moved beyond that. All these privileges that champions used to get, slowly one by one they disappeared. Now, in fact, there are no privileges even for the reigning champion. If you tie on equal score, you have to play a tiebreaker. Whereas before they would say who won the previous game or who won the previous match, all that. So these things have slowly changed. The nature of chess has changed, and it still remains the best strategy to focus on your game.
True. Well, at some point, younger players arrive with different energies and, faster preparations, deeper engine familiarity, I suppose. So, do you remember the first moment when you sensed that time had begun to assert itself in your career? I know you mentioned it in your memoir, but...
it's not something that suddenly hits you. It's throughout your life, you see that things change. It's in the reverse order. You're the young player, and suddenly these older guys who, for you, inspired you, and you thought they were legends and everything, and suddenly you realize they're making mistakes. You're beating them sometimes. Then you realize the relationship, the status is changing slightly. And at the other end of it, I could also see that you start making mistakes and you realize, okay, this is I need to either work much harder, but it's going to get tougher from now on. Generally, your ability to calculate gets worse with age, and so you have to spend a lot of time compensating it. Once upon a time, I used to read about Victor Korchnoi trying to fight time, so to speak. And then recently I thought, okay, now it's my turn.
So when that happened, what adapted first? Like your preparation methods, or, your tournament choices, or your expectations of yourself?
A bit of everything. You constantly have to reset your expectations. And in my career, I always found it helpful to set them lower than it should be. Because it removes some pressure from you. So, and in fact, a lot of my best results came when after a series of bad results, when I go to a tournament without expectations, I suddenly do very well. So, I mean, you can't fake it, then it'd be too easy. Yeah. But sometimes it happens like that naturally, and you realize that's a part. You have to engage with youngsters, study their games, keep an open mind, not keep on saying, well, this is not how I used to do things, but keep an open mind. And you'll also, it's not all one-sided. You'll also spot that there are things you do better than them, but there are many things they do better than you. Typically, they're more open to new ideas. But then you can use that as a lever. You can say, I will study their games. And by studying their games, I will have learned those new ideas.
Yes.
Rather than feeling bad, because it's quite natural. As you get older, you resist changes to your framework, to your... the concepts you know, and that is quite important in chess. Especially now, I think the big difference is computers are rewriting chess knowledge more or less on a daily or weekly basis. So now it's, you have to constantly experiment and tinker with new stuff. And almost everything you know before was at a high level, it's wrong. So you have to move along. But I realize it's quite disorienting for youngsters also. And yeah, we just have to adapt to this.
So as you mentioned, nowadays, the AI and with all kinds of technology. So, some people see engine as clarifiers, or, they've made the game better infinitely. And also some people say it has a homogenizing force. How do you see it?
So the first thing is, yes, the level of accuracy goes up. Typically, an engine will spit out an answer.
Yes.
If you give it a thing, its top move is typically the best move. And you can argue with it all you want, but at the end, you will usually admit that it's right. But the argument part is important. You have to say, wait, if this is the best move, then why can't I make this move? And then it replies. It's not telling you, it's not giving you answers in a language. It's just telling you, if you make this move, I'll make this. So you think that. And finally, you reach a point where it's obvious to you as well that, let's say, white is winning. So then you go back and you try another black move. And once again, you run down till you can see as clearly as the computer could see before that evaluation is correct. You come back, you go. And I think now the value is understanding the computer's answers, understanding the details. I mean, an answer can hide a lot of details, and your job is to understand that. It's also a leveler because every person who has a phone or a laptop has access to one of the best coaches in the world. Very obedient coach, sits there quietly. You can ask any number of questions. But then differentiating yourself is what do you take away from it? What do you find you can use at the chessboard? And those are the skills you have to focus on. But it's definitely made the game much more easy to follow for everyone, because everyone, if they don't understand anything else, they can at least see what the computer is saying. And it tells them, the computer said this, but the players didn't find it, so they're playing something else. Let me try to understand. It gives you some guidance.
Yeah, but at a very ontological level, does it completely change the meaning of chess as a game? As in, a lot of people say that, so it's kind of, it reduces onboard creativity, or the opening repertoires have been, haven't been that diverse as it used to be.
No, they are in fact much more diverse now, because people realize that many things that we consider dead ends or second-rate moves actually can't be refuted. It takes higher accuracy to play them, but you can't refute them, and people experiment. So on the one hand, it's increasing the possible variations, but on the other, computers drive a lot. But how every generation actually complains about change, and if you have seen that, then you have to ask yourself, well, is it fundamentally different, or has it always kind of been seen? Now, by the way, some changes have happened recently with technology, computers, the fact that communication, mobile networks, everything is instantaneous across the globe. Those things are big changes, and they are quite fundamental. But people in the 1920s, in the 1890s were also saying chess is dying. So then it was a lack of imagination, and in a way it continues. But the system responds. I mean, people gravitate to the format which keeps the most unpredictability, because that's what spectators want. And in a way, the game will keep evolving. But it's a nice thing that more people are joining in and enjoying it. So you shouldn't lose track of that.
Yeah, but has the experience of playing it, I'm sure it must have changed, right? How that has changed, because, when there's this thing that when humans kind of play each other, there is this, this kind of weight, this fear of mistakes, and, pressure from the clock, and the sense that, something.
But it was always there, even before computers were there. In fact, the one place where the game experience of the game hasn't changed is on the chessboard. Because there you're still left alone to your own devices. You can't, you don't get any external help, and you have to do things on your own. That part has not changed, and so your training for that part also should not change too much. You have to be in as close experience to that in order to train that better. But fear of your opponent knowing something you didn't, fear that your preparation is insufficient, or that your memory is not quite accurate here, or whatever, is a feeling everybody has had for hundreds of years. So I think the way you experience the game remains the same.
But also, is it that, with AI, your input is more at the preparation level rather than on the board
the study
level?
of the game has changed radically. But if you brought a player from 100 years ago and showed them how you work on chess, they would be staggered because they would not even understand half the moves. And it would take them a while to realize that those moves were even legal almost. The thing. But take them to a tournament and they would make them sit in a chair and they say, yeah, everything's fine. Because that hasn't changed that much. I mean, okay, the security checks for metal detector checks to make sure you don't have any devices. I think they would find that strange. But other than that, they went and sat at the board. They would not feel anything was different.
I'm also curious about, Go, the game. It was long seen as the last game that machines could crack, not because it was harder to calculate, but because it depended a lot on intuition and balance and sort of long-term judgment. It has extreme number of moves apparently. So, but when machines mastered Go, many people experienced it as a deeper shock than when Deep Blue defeated Kasparov, right?
I think I don't think so at all. Okay. I think in computing terms, Go is a much bigger game.
Yeah,
and it therefore the role of judgment is much bigger there. In chess, computers caught up in terms of judgment because their search goes far enough.
Yes.
In Go, that wasn't the case. But if you have to compare, you shouldn't compare what people think of chess in 2016 and Go in 2016. You should compare what people think of Go in 2016 and chess in 97. And in 97, they were saying the same things. My God, if we can't play even chess, what can we do? Is this the end of human creativity? It's the same arguments. And they were being used then. But it's true that chess got solved earlier because it turned out to be a much more finite game, much more tactical, and therefore it was ideally suited for computers. They passed that barrier earlier. Go required AI. It required a self-learning network which could keep learning from new experiences and kind of change its strategy accordingly. And but in 97 it was huge that the people considered the Turing test had been fulfilled and solved, and that particular river was crossed and so on. And in 2016 there was a fresh barrier, which again people thought, Go, when will they crack it? And suddenly it happened, and that was a very big deal as well. But I don't think people said different things in 16 and 97. They said different things in 16 about both. But it's normal, no? Something which happened 10 years ago, you just think, it's nothing special. But you should go back and see what you said the next day. Yes. And it was almost identical.
But do you think that, the idea of the human mind and its complexity, do you think that, every form of human thinking can be cracked by machines, or do you think there are some limits? Or according to you, what part of your brain cannot be, replicated by a machine because you play side by side and you would know better?
I think a lot of things, but how does it matter? Something is not possible till it is possible. Once upon a time, I was surprised that something could play much better than chess.
Yeah.
Chess than humans. Then it's something else. Now apparently they can talk to us on their own. Many things we assumed that were not possible become possible. And I don't know what my opinion should be. I look at what people are saying, experts in the field, and in fact, nowadays I will read an article saying how AI is going to change the world. It's going to unleash so much wealth that we will all be sitting and we'll all be out of a job because we won't need to do a job, and we'll have universal basic income or something else. But what to do with all these people? And one line of argument how AI is going to change medicine, change physics, change whatever. Then the next day you can read an article by a skeptic, and it's equally convincing. At the end of it, you'll really think, it's just a lot of hype and baloney. But what is different? I'm not actually able to argue with either argument. Both are by people close in the field.
Yes.
And so all I can do is keep an open mind. I'll say, yes, this person was very, very optimistic. This person is skeptical. I keep both points. And the problem is sometimes the brain labels them. It labels optimistic and skeptical, not right and wrong. I don't yet have the information to say what's going to happen.
But you do have a lived experience, right? I'm true.
But what does the experience of chess imply for other things? I mean, for a long time, people thought robots will walk around the house and do housework. I mean, that song has they've been singing since the 50s. Funnily enough, motion around the room was very difficult for robots, computers, whatever you want to call them. They could not do it for a very long time. In fact, they cracked chess before they cracked that. And we thought it's going to be in the reverse order because chess is so intelligent and blah, blah. In fact, every living species on Earth solved motion effortlessly. I mean, even birds will navigate beautifully around a room like this. But a robot will bang every chair and table because it doesn't know what it's doing. I mean, I'm exaggerating. This was some years ago. It's improving. But what looks simple to us, I mean, any baby very quickly learns how to get around a room, and things like that. What looks simple to us turns out to be difficult or took longer to solve. What looks complex to us, they solve effortlessly very quickly. I don't know. At the moment, I take in all the information. But anyway...
No, just while playing chess, let's not go anywhere else.
Right.
Just while playing chess, as an engine, as your partner, where do you think you are excelling and you're kind of better than it? If there is any such
I no longer
thing?
think I'm better at it, at anything. I'm better at it at understanding what a human needs to play chess. It has no understanding of this because it, first of all, doesn't understand what it's doing. It's just... its output is chess, but it's not the same thing. And second, it doesn't need to understand how a human thinks. It doesn't need to cope with our errors. It plays at a different level because for it, it's effortless. It's like asking why a plane flies or something. You know, that's what it's built to do. My job is to see how I can learn to improve myself. That's all. If I can figure that out or manage it for a few games, I'm happy. I don't really care the underlying discussion. So,
okay, I have to ask you this. So, whenever like you speak of mathematics, you speak of elegant equations and the beauty surrounding it, right? And I always, whenever I've interviewed a mathematician or I keep asking them this question, can AI replicate beauty? And since chess is also mathematics in a way, so do you think your sense of aesthetics, at least, okay, when two machines are playing games with each other, and when a human is involved, like, are there beautiful and ugly games, or is it just, how does,
tastes vary. People will disagree what's beautiful, but yes, there's an incredible amount of beauty. For me, what is beauty is what's hard for me to do, and then the computers do a lot of that. And so, watching computer analysis, even studying a game with the computer's help, I'm constantly amazed at all the things that are possible. And so, in fact, it's easier to find beauty. It's harder to produce it now at the board because you can't control these things very easily.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of beautiful chess comes out as a result. So, no, there's no shortage of that.
So, what is the main motivation? Is the main motivation to do checkmate or to play a beautiful move when you're playing chess?
In a sense, checkmate. I mean, or the threat of it, because people resign long before, and that's my motivation. I always say, if I play the worst game of my life, but my opponent blunders on one move before the end and I win, I'm much happier with that than if I played a good game but I didn't win the point. For me, the sporting result is much more important than anything else.
Okay, so if I were to say that, to you, losing a beautiful game is worse than winning a messy game, right?
Totally. In fact, winning any game is more beautiful than losing a... I mean, if I win a game, I can go back and say, okay, today I played badly, but I have to do better tomorrow. But I'm not cursing myself. You lose, it bugs you for a few hours at least. And for me, there's no comparison of the experiences.
Okay. Also, another aspect of it, chess is often described as a pure meritocracy. There's no physical things required per se. So, and yet women remain very underrepresented at the highest level. So, from your long view, where is the real barrier lie there? So is it training environments? Is it confidence? Cultural expectation? What is
I don't know. One thing which is revealing is that earlier you could make the argument that, I don't know, Asians are worse in chess than Europeans, because it was true.
Yeah.
You could see in competition that Europeans were doing better than Asians. And this was true till Asians do well. And in fact, now everybody understands that was a nonsensical argument. It's simply that Asians didn't participate or study the game the same way. And now that they compete fiercely, they've caught up and in some cases gone ahead, whatever. And then you understand the argument that geography gives you an advantage is itself nonsensical. So, but in each of these cases, the argument revealed itself to be things. So my assumption would be that the idea that women play worse chess and there's some fundamental problem we have to figure out seems suspicious.
It's something
systemic. But on the other hand, even countries or certain groups of nationalities of fans who play very well in the men's game do quite badly in the women's game. That gap persists not only across the globe but also in individual regions. So men have outperformed women in chess for a long time. I don't understand it simply. In university, that gap closed long back, maybe even slightly reversed. In most of the areas, it doesn't matter. In chess, it remains a big gap. So then you come up with the usual explanations, which is could be culture, it could be the fact that women are not encouraged to do it, it could be some other thing. But there is a gap, and I can't really explain it.
We come towards the end, and we always say, life is a game of chess, and having lived inside that game for decades, do you think it's a good model for living?
No, it's not. One very clear difference in chess, we have very strict rules, and they're enforced. It's illegal to make a move that's not in the rules. So what kind of model is that for politics or something? Politics is about literally survival and making up rules as you go along. It operates a whole different set of assumptions. And so I think, in fact, chess doesn't equate well to those kinds of fields. It's a narrowly defined, very, very complex. It turned out that simple rules then have huge consequences, but it's still 64 squares, all that, and it's very predictable. All the basic point about chess is all the information is on the chessboard. I can come while two people have been sitting there working for the problem for 5 hours. I can come sit down. I don't need to ask them, tell me what's going on. I look at the board and I know what's going on. So that's I don't think it's necessarily a good guide, but it's a guide for many areas of life. So there are areas of life that are similar to this kind of pattern. In those cases, chess is a helpful guide. And also how humans approach problems, it's a good guide for that, because whether life is unpredictable or predictable, there are some parallels you can find. And maybe the revealing answer is outsiders often use that metaphor. You think, well, maybe they know something I don't, and maybe they relate to it. Of course, they also know something they themselves don't know, which is they keep saying things like, I think yesterday or day before, I counted somebody saying somebody had gotten to 29-dimensional chess. This is complete nonsense. There is no 3-dimensional chess. Even if you play it, it's a different game. And by the way, we do play on 3 dimensions. They mean that it's just X and Y in chess. And there is no 4-dimensional chess and there is no 5-dimensional chess, and 29 just is ludicrous. So some of these analogies, they sound strange to me, but
Yes.
What that person was trying to accomplish was to tell a general audience that this person who was playing some higher dimensional chess was doing something very deep, was out-calculating. They were deep strategists. And if the audience understood that, then, who's to quibble with the example? I mean, the example makes no sense to me, but if it works out there, it works. So here you have a case where something in language, it's perfectly understandable what they're trying to say. But, in chess, we don't have 29-dimensional chess, and it is quite irritating. But then I can imagine that people who talk about science that way, that scientists find it very annoying. There's no such thing, and but still people find the analogy useful. So it has some value. I don't think it's the only skill you can learn. So, for instance, games of chance also are very useful, because if you practice games of chance, you learn about probabilities. It's not really what you discover in chess, but it's very useful problem-solving techniques in other areas.
So when you would no longer play chess, what would remain with you of chess?
In a sense, I would continue to think about chess, and I would still, sometimes I remember old games of mine, sometimes I'll see a new game. I think I will never get to a point where I don't think about chess every day. But if playing doesn't give me the satisfaction, then at some point you have to stop. And it's clear that there are age limits in chess. In fact, they're dropping all the time. And so you can't ignore that. It seems that you do, that chess has such a big physical component that you do get tired playing it.
In the end, I'm going to do a shorter rapid fire with you. You have to answer by your instinct.
Okay.
And try not to take too much time, but you can. So a position you still think about?
Several of my best games. Let's say the game with Aronian in Tata Steel.
Okay. One opponent who changed how you thought about the game?
I think Karpov.
A book you return to, not for chess, but for thinking?
I like pulling out Cosmos, simply because, I mean, even the diagrams and all look old, but it brings back nice memories.
A discipline outside chess that you respect deeply?
Many disciplines seem fascinating to me. But recently I would say mathematics and medicine both seem that they're doing amazing stuff.
One quality in people you've come to value more with age?
I like people who are pleasant and uncomplicated. It's easiest to be with them.
And one quality you've learned to distrust in competitive environments?
I'm very suspicious when I feel something strongly.
Okay. Something you once chased intensely and no longer feel the need to?
Probably sporting success. I mean, once upon a time, I spent my life thinking of when I'd become world champion, and now I'd be happy to be world champion again, but it's not driving my life.
Well, I think partial question I'd asked you before, but the choice is different. Is the ultimate goal of chess to checkmate the opponent or to understand the truth of the position?
If it is to understand the truth of the position, you're basically going to be waiting a long time, so it better be checkmate.
And on that note, thank you so much for joining us. You're as sharp and as to the point. So lovely having this conversation with you.